Hey guys, today I'm going to be sharing with you 5 of my favorite audiobooks. Now I don't normally talk about my love for audiobooks on this channel, but over the past year I've been really getting into audiobooks and I love that format of reading. I've been kind of hesitant to talk about it on my channel though because I know that there are a group of people out there that don't think listening to audiobooks is the same thing as reading, which I'm not even going to have that discussion today, but I will just have to say that I have to disagree with those people. I do think that audiobooks are considered real books. Now if you're wondering how I listen to audiobooks, I listen through Audible. I have an Audible subscription. I get like 2 credits every month and it's around like $25. Note that this is not an ad for Audible at all. I don't even have an affiliate with Audible. I just actually genuinely love Audible and I'm an active user of Audible. I know that there are some other cool apps out there where you can get audiobooks for free. One that I know that a lot of people use is the app Overdrive, and you can actually like connect it with your library and you can access all sorts of audiobooks and ebooks, and it's just a really great resource for getting books, so definitely check that out if you're interested. But anyways, today I'm going to be recommending you 5 of my favorite audiobooks. The first on my list is the Lunar Chronicles series by Marissa Meyer. They're narrated by Rebecca Solar, and she did a fantastic job on these audiobooks. Now, I haven't listened to the first 2. I did listen to Cress, Winter, and Fairest on audiobook, and they were just so great. One thing that I really loved about the audiobooks is that it felt like the narrator really knew these characters. She was really able to bring these characters to life in the audiobook format, and I really appreciated that. When she was Aiko, she upped the sass. When she was Winter, she brought in the quirkiness. It's like she really knew these characters and really knew how to embody their personalities, and I just loved that about these audiobooks. So I highly recommend checking out these audiobooks if you've been considering reading the Lunar Chronicles series. It's an amazing series and I would highly recommend checking it out in audiobook format. If you don't know anything about the Lunar Chronicles series, it's this amazing series of sci-fi fairy tale retellings. There's a lot of action, there's a lot of romance, there's plenty of diverse characters, there's a lot of hilarious moments, and there's also a lot of dark moments. So it's got a nice mix of all the things, and I highly recommend checking out this series. Next on my list is Off the Page by Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer. This was such a fun audiobook, and I think a big part as to why this is one of my favorites is because we have a full cast of characters, so we have a different voice for each of the characters, and it just worked so well for this audiobook. It's narrated by Nick Cordero, Michael Backinson, Susie Jackson, and Morgan Hallett, and they all just did such a fantastic job. Having a big cast of voice actors actually kind of made it easier to follow all the different characters. Sometimes with books, having a big cast of characters can be really hard to follow. You struggle knowing who is who, but that's why sometimes having several narrators can be a great thing for audiobooks, because it's not as overwhelming and you know which voice belongs to which character, and having all these different voices for the different roles within the book just made the characters that much more distinct. And if you don't know what Off the Page is all about, basically we have this girl who has brought all these characters from a fairy tale into the real world, and she has to kind of deal with the consequences of doing that. It's a crazy fun adventure, it's lighthearted, and the humor is pretty on point. Next on my list is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. So in this book we already have a really interesting narrator. If you didn't know, this book is actually narrated from the perspective of death, which is really interesting. So I was really curious to see how they were going to bring that into play with the audiobook and who they were going to pick as the narrator, because I felt like they needed somebody who could really encompass that dark feeling. I felt like they really needed to find a narrator who could portray that darkness, not only of the narrator, but of that time period and the things that were happening, because this takes place during World War II. And the narrator that they chose for this book was the British actor Alan Cardunner, and honestly his voice suits this book so well. He has a very deep and raspy voice, and it was just the perfect fit for this book. So if you've been putting off reading The Book Thief, definitely check out the audiobook. That's what I did. It took me ages to finally get around to reading this book, but I'm glad that I chose the audiobook format. So I actually listened to the audiobook and read along in my book, and that was just like a great way to like take in all this information. That way I was just like fully immersing myself in this story, and I really enjoyed that experience. Next on my list is the audiobook for Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare, and this audiobook is narrated by Marina Baccarin. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Now I've listened to pretty much every audiobook from the Shadowhunter Chronicles, and this one is my favorite because of its consistency. In the past they've had like a bunch of different narrators, and the audiobooks for the Infernal Devices, they hired Ed Westwick alongside another female narrator, and it was so inconsistent. Ed didn't narrate throughout the whole audiobook, and that really bothered me. It would just have like random moments where it switched over to the female narrator, and it's almost like they just couldn't afford Ed Westwick for the whole audiobook. So I'm really hoping that with this series they stick with the same narrator. Please, oh please, oh please, because she did a fantastic job. So if you haven't read Lady Midnight yet, maybe check out the audiobook because I really enjoyed the audiobook. And the last on my list is the audiobook for A Man Called Uwe. Now this one kind of has a special place in my heart because it's one of the first audiobooks that I listened to and genuinely loved. I remember finishing this book and just feeling so good, not only about the narration, I thought the narration was great, but the story itself is just so like heartwarming. That's like the best way that I can describe it. This was narrated by George Newbern, and I feel like his style isn't necessarily like to bring the characters to life, which is fine. He doesn't give the characters accents or anything. It doesn't like play off their personalities. To me, his style felt more like being read a bedtime story from your grandfather. I know that that's like a really weird description of this audiobook, but that's like how it felt to me. It felt like every night before bed when I would listen to it that I was just being read a story from my grandfather. But I really liked that style, and it kind of added like this charming aspect to the story, and I really loved this audiobook. So those are some of my favorite audiobooks. Maybe in the future I'll do another one of these videos and kind of showcase some of the audiobooks that I've listened to since I've posted this video. You guys should let me know down below some of your favorite audiobooks because I would love some recommendations. Or let me know down below if you've never listened to an audiobook and if you've been wanting to give them a try, because I was in that same boat like a year ago, so I feel you. I feel you. It took me some time to find audiobooks that I personally enjoyed, but they're definitely a fun format to read from, and I would totally recommend checking out some audiobooks. Also, if you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so click subscribe if you want to be notified for when I post new videos. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye, choo! There's a wasp right outside my window and it keeps buzzing up a storm. They're narrated. This was narrated by Norge is George, not Norge.